NBA season is starting to wind down, and there are a couple of players that still have a lot to prove before the end of the season and heading into the playoffs or play-in, depending on where their team is currently sitting at. We're going to talk about those teams. Plus, we're going to talk about Draymond Green saying he's not worried about the Rockets, but why he probably should be. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host here, Haize. Make sure you guys are following the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform that we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this contest. I want to talk about some of the players that have the most to prove as the season winds down, right? And, there's quite a bit of them, depending on where their season has gone, right, individually, or where the team is headed, kind of that team success being the barrier there. And the first player that I want to talk about is Anthony Edwards. You look at it, of course, the face of the league conversation has been there around Anthony Edwards a lot here recently. Heck, we've had it here. I've also had it over on Player's Choice, over on From the Logo podcast. Make sure you guys check that out as well. But with that said, we've had that discussion, right? But when you look at it right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who were at one point, looking to push for the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, they had one of the best records in that conference. Of course, how it's hurt them with Karl Anthony Towns going down and stuff like that has definitely played a big part in that. But this team is a team that is now, number 3 right now. They don't look to maybe pass. They're only a half game behind the OKC Thunder, only 1 game behind the Denver Nuggets. But overall, you're really looking at Anthony Edwards and how he's going to step up, especially with the added kind of, scoring punch that he's going to have to bring with Karl Anthony Towns being down. When you look at right now, where Anthony Edwards is, his scoring volume is down to 26.9. That's down from 31 points per game in the month of February. His true shooting percentage has also taken a dip right now to 54.6%, which is below league average. So that's kind of some things that are going on with Anthony Edwards. And while, there's a lot of teams right now vying for that position in the Western Conference, Anthony Edwards, a 2-time All-Star, one of the best players under the age of 25 in the entire NBA. Everybody's looking at Anthony Edwards to justify that face of the league conversation. But even outside of that, people are looking for him to take it to another level at the end of the season and in the playoffs as well. They're really looking at what Anthony Edwards is going to do, as this team is a team that's missing one of their better players, a player that's been playing really well for them. And while Rudy Gobert is kind of all but slated in to be that defensive player of the year, people are looking to see how Edwards is going to really up his game, right? How he's going to step up both now to end the season, kind of hold off or maybe even move up that standing a little bit more, but especially in the playoffs. People are going to really, right or wrong, I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong, those expectations being placed on Anthony Edwards, but the expectations are coming, and people are really going to look to see how Anthony Edwards finishes out the season, how he leads his team in the playoffs, especially with how good they've played overall this season. And they're going to be looking, all eyes are going to be on Ant to see what he really does. Now, for the Minnesota Timberwolves credit, still 7-3 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game winning streak right now. And they aren't playing terrible since Karl Anthony Towns went down, but they're still looking. All eyes are going to be to see how Anthony Edwards continues to increase his game here towards the end of the season. So that's something we're definitely looking on. He's definitely one of those players as well. And then another player I'm going to mention is a player that I think should be in that conversation for face of the league as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You look at him, he's an MVP candidate with the way that he's been playing. Absolutely. And the fact that he's been good enough to have those higher expectations placed on him, it's going to be what it is, right? So, that's what it's going to come down to. His play has earned the higher expectations that are placed on him. Again, we could talk about those expectations being fair or not, but the fact of the matter is he finds himself in a position that great players find themselves in. With great play comes greater expectations, not to kind of flip the Spider-Man quote or not, but it comes down to it. He is one of the hardest players to guard in the entire NBA. When you look at it, his free throw attempts, 15.2 free throw attempts per 100 possessions in January. They're down right now to 10.1 with the way that the officiating has changed over the course in the league so far. But at the end of the day, OKC Thunder, whether right or wrong, when you look at it, this is a deep young team that has a bright future ahead of them. But a lot of people are going to be looking to see what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does in this playoffs. How does he push himself to higher expectations? How does he step up in the playoffs, especially if this team finishes as the number 2 seed? I don't think anybody's going to really make the argument if they do lose to the Denver Nuggets that they're terrible or anything like that, but you cannot have a letdown in the playoffs, not with the season that you've had, not with the MVP run that you've been on as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's on, and he's going into that area where he's going to be a perennial MVP candidate in conversation with the way that he's been playing, and that is warranted. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a player that I truly feel should be more in that conversation of, if we're talking about faces of the league, because of his play, because of the two-way versatility. He gives effort defensively as well, and he's just a guy who just continues to up his game every single season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is definitely a player that has a lot of expectations for him that we're going to be looking to step up here over the last part of the season. And then the first kind of veteran that we're getting on this list, that's Damian Lillard, right? Dame, who, got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. And, he got an all-star nod this season and things like that. But you gotta say, when you look at Dame Lillard, whether right or wrong, people are going to be looking for how his play is on the end of the season and into the playoffs to justify whether the Milwaukee Bucks were right for making that trade. Now, I don't have any. When you look at pairing Dame Lillard with Giannis Antetokounmpo, you would have been crazy not to try to do that if you had that opportunity. But when you look at it, he's 19th in points allowed per 100 possessions since the All-Star break, which, to say it is, it's not great, right? So because you don't give up you don't bring a whole hell of a lot defensively in the contract that you're getting paid, the fact that you'll be making $58.6 million in the year 2026-27 season, everybody's looking to see what is this going to be. And then when you look at it paired as well, in the game against the Los Angeles Clippers on March 8th, they ran 23 on-ball screens for Dame Lillard with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they still lost that game. People are going to look to see if this Giannis and Dame pairing works long-term, and they're going to be right again, much with what I said. A lot of this is it's more narrative than right or wrong wholly, right, objectively, but whether right or wrong, how this season ends for the Milwaukee Bucks, even though it's the first year of this team being together, a lot of that's going to be placed on how Dame Lillard has been playing and if he brought exactly what they were hoping for on paper, he was going to bring to this Milwaukee Bucks team. And because of that, you really have to look deep at that and ask if he's bringing enough. The pick and roll volume between Dame and Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's been rising since the All-Star game. You want to see that continue to rise, because I think that's what's going to find that wrinkle for this team to truly make this team dangerous in the playoffs. And so looking to see how they work that out here over the last 10 games of the season is going to be hugely important to setting that tone and those expectations for what they exactly can be in the playoffs. So we're going to be looking at that. Now, with that said, another player that I want to bring on here, whether, again, right or wrong, kind of in a lot of ways, Jonathan Kuminga, right? When you look at the fact that the Golden State Warriors tried to really have that 2 timelines, right? And when you look at the players that were brought in on those 2 timelines, James Wiseman, gone. Moses Moody, up and down, right? Brendan Podziemski, the rookie this year, has had a solid rookie season and some flashes there. He doesn't really create his own shot very well. You got Tracy Jackson-Davis as well, who, as a lob threat, has shown so much for this team and in certain matchups can absolutely be a killer. But when you look at the player that's probably going to be looked on to step up the most to help that veteran core of Steph, Dre, and Klay Thompson towards the end of the season as they're trying to fight off that Houston Rockets team, it really does come down to, what does Jonathan Kuminga bring? And the fact, especially, that he asked for a trade earlier in the season, they didn't do that. He's now stepped up that role. He stepped into that very well. When Steph Curry was going through his rough shooting earlier in March, Kuminga stepped up hugely for this Golden State Warriors team. He averaged the most drives per game than any teammate in the last 2 months as well for that, and he leads the team in free throw shooting over that time period as well. Kuminga has flashed the bones of a 3-level scorer in the NBA. Again, not high volume there, but he's done that. And if he can continue to do that as his team is fighting to hold on to that last play-in spot, and then even fighting more to make it out the play-in into the playoffs, Jonathan Kuminga and what he really brings for this team, how he stretches the ball, right? How he stretches the floor, how he continues right now, averaging 16.3 points per game, about 5 rebounds per game, 2.1 assists on 52% shooting, and 32% from three-point range right now. How he's doubled almost his point output of his first 2 seasons in the league. You're really looking at Kuminga and how he steps up to really help this Golden State Warriors team, especially when you have the Houston Rockets nipping at the heel of the Golden State Warriors, which brings us to our next topic, our last topic on this episode, and that is Draymond. When he was asked about the Houston Rockets, he said this: "I don't give a damn about the Rockets." That's just what he said about them trying to take that last and final playoffs play-in spot from the Golden State Warriors. And here's what I'm going to say to that. I get it. Dre is confident. We love Dre for what he talks and the shit that he talks, but you should be worried about the Houston Rockets. And there are a couple of basketball reasons why. First, they've been playing with the second best point differential in the NBA, second to only the Boston Celtics. They also have the second longest win streak right now in the NBA, second again to who? The Boston Celtics. And while, Jalen Green's showing the flashes right now, right? When you look at it, he's averaging 29 points per game, shooting 53% from the field, 45% from three-point range. That's since Alfred Sengun went down. He's fifth in the NBA in scoring over that point in time. And his passing, his decision-making, and his defense has stepped up a lot over that time as well. Also, the Houston Rockets have the second best net rating since Sengun went down. They were 21st in the NBA before then. Why are the Houston Rockets also playing better? Well, they're playing with a much faster pace, third highest in the league. On top of that, they're also third highest in pace and in assists per game. They were bottom 5 in both of those before Sengun went down. What we're seeing is a team that has now spread the ball around, as well as Jalen Green, who's really stepped up now as a primary option. He's showing that when he's the number one scoring option, he's more engaged offensively, he's more engaged defensively. And even though this team has been averaging worse paint interior defense, they're really good out on the perimeter, guarding the three-point line as well. And, Alfred Sengun is coming back as well before the end of the season. And if Ime Udoka can find a way to have both these players rocking and rolling at the same time, there's more than enough reason why you should be worried about the damn Houston Rockets, Draymond Green, because the Rockets are showing everything right now, and Ime Udoka has this team rocking. Then when you look at the veterans as well that they've added with Dylan Brooks, who really is an enforcer on that team, as red as Fred VanVleet, there's a lot of reason why this Houston Rockets team and the push they're going on very well could knock the Golden State Warriors out that final play-in spot. And they're getting closer and closer every day that goes by. So while Draymond should be confident in his team, make no mistake about it, the things that this Golden State Warriors team has been able to do over the last decade, absolutely they should have confidence. But let's be clear, there's only a game right now separating the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. And with the way that the Houston Rockets have been playing, they could very well pass up the Golden State Warriors as early as today. And if that happens, you better be damn worried about the damn Houston Rockets at that point, Draymond. Don't let the overconfidence kind of get in your way. And that's what this has to boil down to. They got to get back. And, for the credit, Dre has taken on a lot of the responsibility, saying that he really holds himself responsible for the slip defensively that the Golden State Warriors have had. Steph Curry even saying this: the situation would define itself pretty clearly. It's in real time. Every game matters. We're inching closer to the other end of the standings. This team, whether Draymond wants to say it publicly or not, they feel the pressure that the Houston Rockets are placing on them, and they need to act like they feel that pressure out. Steve Kerr as well, right? He feels it in his coaching when you see him trying to empower the other teams as well. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. If the Houston Rockets keep this hot streak up, it's not the fact that the Warriors will just need to look to keep winning games. They'll be looking from the outside in at that point. And when you let a young team like the Houston Rockets, who are playing with house money on top of that, gain that momentum, gain that confidence, it may just get around for you from you. So let's hope that over these last few games that the Golden State Warriors can really pull this thing together, because if they don't, it's going to be ugly. It is really going to be ugly for this team. And this is a team that I just had pegged as one of my dark horses in the NBA play-in area, that one of the teams in the play-in that can come out of the play-in. But you really got to look at how they've been playing lately. And while they don't have an overly tough schedule remaining in the NBA, them and the Houston Rockets, you look at it, and the Houston Rockets have the easier schedule. Again, that's per tankathon. That can go up and down. So they got to lock in. And hopefully the Golden State Warriors do, because I tell you what, I'd love to see Steph get an opportunity to cook again in the NBA playoffs, but that has to be earned. And there's always that next young team that's ready to take your spot. And the Houston Rockets are showing over this last little bit, maybe it is just a hot streak, but it seems like they are ready to try to take that last playing spot from the Golden State Warriors. But let me know what you guys think. What are some of the players that you look at and say have the most to show over the final stretch final 10 to 12 games. Most teams have 10 to 12 games left on the season. And then let me know, do you think that the Golden State Warriors will be able to stave off the Houston Rockets for that final play-in spot, or do you think it's destined for the young Rockets team to take that? Let me know all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related, thanks to you guys. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.